Hello, human peoples. You're listening to the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. Support us and gain access to great exclusive podcasts like Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and our latest show, Spiel Boys. Head over to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We do game streaming, movie nights with our patrons every Friday night, and you can even commission your own podcast about anything you want. Literally anything, within reason, and we have to do it. You are quite frankly out of excuses not to go visit patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds. Oh yeah. I'm gonna crack open the soda pop.
Ooh, a soda pop.
A soda
I'm drinking
pop,
a
yeah.
Red Bull. I'm drinking the red edition of Red Bull. It's even redder.
Oh, good. I mean, I'm just glad we're both drinking chemicals.
Oh, God, yeah.
Delicious,
I feel
delicious chemicals.
Right, I feel like I'm turning into the Joker.
Yeah, I feel like I'm solving the secret of the ooze.
Yeah. Hey, everybody.
Hello, everyone.
My name is David Bell.
My name is Tom Ryman.
And we just watched Glorious.
Glorious!
Is that a song by... What is that? Imagine Dragons?
Oh, maybe. I was doing a riff on Notorious.
Oh, that's better.
Yeah.
You're better.
Yeah, I'm glad you said it.
Everything all right over there, my friend?
I'm not much of a bathroom talker.
You're not in the least bit curious as to what I have to say.
I'm just not into conversations with random dudes hiding out in bathroom stalls.
No one is coming to help you, friend.
So you're a god living in a rest stop bathroom in a stall that's glory hole adjacent.
I am he. I am that god.
Hey, folks.
Listen.
Yeah, is there anything in theaters that we missed? Because I didn't see... This has been...
The end of the summer has been pretty dry.
Dry as fuck.
We had Bodies last weekend that we didn't do.
I'll get around to that. I might wait for streaming.
Yeah, but that was also kind of limited like it was only in, I think, maybe 500 theaters last
no
weekend,
shit.
I think, and now it was opening wider, I believe.
Right.
But this week, there's like nothing new, really. They had the Orphan prequel, which is on Paramount Plus, I believe, but...
Yeah. There's
didn't...
Beast. I want to see
Beast, right. Beast.
Yeah.
Kind of gotta see
around to
Beast,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like next week... Oh, no, we had the George Miller movie is next week, so that's cool. Hopefully that'll be around.
We'll find a way. Yeah, shoot, yeah, I hope.
Yeah.
I haven't had a chance to scope out the theaters around here yet.
Well, we'll figure it out. This is all to say that we watched the J.K. Simmons Eldritch horror glory hole film, Glorious, that came out. It didn't get... It got some hype, I'd say. I think this is one of those things that, like... It gets a little buzz, right? Because it's so weird.
Right. It kind of reminded me, not necessarily in the content of the film, but like it reminded me a little bit of Rubber, in that it was like,
yeah,
it got a little bit of buzz just for how bonkers the premise kind of is.
Right. Which sometimes I find... Like, I'm on the fence about this one in terms of the premise, where it's like sometimes that feels like it's pandering almost.
It feels a little
like
it can feel a little Sharknado-y.
Yes, exactly. Where they're doing it on purpose.
Yeah, it's like, can you believe we made a movie about this? Like, well, they can make
a movie about anything. Yeah.
I hope it's good.
Yeah. And on that subject, how did you like Glorious?
I thought it was not great. I thought it was a really interesting premise with some good performances, particularly J.K. Simmons does a really good job because of course he does. But overall, I thought this was very obviously a short that had no business being a full-length movie.
Yeah, so I liked it slightly more than you, which is to say, I thought it was okay.
Yeah, it's extremely okay. Yeah. It has a very, very predictable twist. It takes 50 minutes, and this is a 79-minute movie. It takes 50 minutes for J.K. Simmons, the Eldritch Glory Hole God, to even tell the protagonist, and by that extension us, what it is he wants. And that's kind of a problem.
I want to talk about what this movie does right and what it does wrong. And,
sure.
And it does come down to the fact that I think you're right that this is a short film.
Yeah, and there's just not enough
stretched.
Yeah, there's not enough here, and it's you notice that it's kind of stretching for time. It takes that. Yeah, we'll talk about the good and the bad because there's some stuff in there that I liked, and there's a few things that I thought were really cool.
Yeah. I generally liked the vibe of the movie. I guess the direction.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked all of J.K. Simmons' dialogue, and that might be partially because he performs it so well. But like, it's weird. It's weird to say he sounds like a god. Like the way he talks.
He does
that makes sense.
Yeah, he does a really good performance, and you're right. The writing of his dialogue was very well written.
Yeah, I think so.
the writing was well written. Way to go, Tom.
Yeah, but it's true.
But it's true. Yeah, the dialogue was well written.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, the broad strokes, like you said, the twist is obvious. So we'll go through the premise, even though there's not much there. A guy is driving, and he seems to have suffered a breakup. He's dressed really nice. He's at rock bottom.
He's dressed nice but disheveled. Yeah, he stops at a highway, an interstate rest stop. It looks like he's living out of his car because it's loaded with stuff. He looks a mess. And he gets fucking hammered. Like we see him leave a couple of calls to who we are presume that is his ex-girlfriend who he's just broken up with, leaves a couple of desperate messages, gets hammered, burns all of the stuff in his car at a fire pit at the rest stop. And then the next morning, while he is just explosively puking his guts out, some voice in the stall next to him starts speaking to him. And it turns out it's this eldritch god that locks him in the restroom until he agrees to perform a ritual task for this god that will save the entire universe from destruction, basically. Yeah,
they don't say it by name, but he is the son of, or the child of Cthulhu.
Yes.
And the idea is he's taking a physical form and needs to take an ethereal form so that the god doesn't find him, because he was built as some sort of device to end the entire universe.
Yeah. But he has become compassionate towards humanity and the human race. He really enjoys the earth. He enjoys human life and wants to preserve it. So he needs this guy's help.
And like you said, he does not specify for a very long time.
It takes him almost an hour of an 80-minute movie to tell him what he wants.
Which is honestly, I think, a problem, because...
It's a pretty big problem, actually.
It is, because he could have told him in the first 15 minutes, 20 minutes... And they still could have had a film, because it's a request that is very steep. He wants him to cut his liver out and give him his liver. And so, like, that would take a while to accept. So it's like he could have told him right away.
It's like...
This is all... I think they want it to be like a glory hole joke, where for a while you think that he wants... To like suck him off, which goes to a gag where he sticks his dick through, and he's like, "Why is your human penis through the hole? Why would your human penis save the world? What are you doing?"
What he says is, "What the hell is that?" And then the guy, the man whose name is Wes, says, "I thought that's what you wanted." He's like, "How is your human penis gonna save the universe?"
Right, and it's J.K. Simmons, so you can imagine how delightful that exchange is.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it isn't, but like, you've like a movie like Saw, like in the first 4 minutes, it's very clear that in order to get out of that room, those guys are going to have to saw their limbs off.
Exactly.
So it's like there's tension built around that from the beginning.
Right, and this guy could have had that knowledge, you know, because it wouldn't have made him do it any quicker.
Yeah, you just put the glory hole joke in earlier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You just do the glory hole joke earlier.
So by delaying knowing what the stakes are, but you don't know what he's actually going to be required to do in order to accomplish what the stakes are.
Right, which would be the first thing I would ask this eldritch god.
Yeah.
Like, I would be like, he asks a few times, but it never becomes clear.
Yeah.
And it's like, I would just be like, step by step, what do you need me to do to get out of this situation?
So by delaying it till almost for delaying it for 3/4 of the length of the movie really made the wheel spinning obvious to me. Like it just made it more glaring.
Which again is weird because I would argue it was unnecessary they had to do that.
Yeah, you didn't have to do that.
Yeah, they do some stuff that I enjoyed when it comes to person trapped in a location, which is they have him try pretty much everything he can to leave.
Yeah.
And it's an easy answer, which is this is a god. So like he finds a vent, he crawls through the vent.
That was really cool. I like that sequence. Yeah.
Yeah, and then of course he's back in the bathroom. And so it's really, in terms of writing, it's like, oh yeah, he can try just about anything. Like to the point that I wasn't annoyed when the inspector guy, what's his name?
Gary C.
Gary, when he comes in and he opens the door and then he kind of shoves him away from the door so it locks behind. I guess like that's one of those things that in any other movie would be frustrating, but because we're dealing with a god, it's like, oh no, that's the god's trapping. You know what I mean? Where it's like that sort of like, oh, the door's open. You left the you let it close.
Didn't get to the door in time. Yeah, like normally that would be like,
really frustrating, but since it's the work of a god pulling all the strings, it's like, oh yeah, it's probably that the god willed that to happen.
Yeah, he was never going to let him out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that, of course, Gary is brought in, I think, as part of the wheel spinning.
Yes.
But I don't think this is like the few moments of wheel spinning that's like, well, I enjoyed it. They have this guy show up and he hears him calling out and he gets in the bathroom. The Eldritch God lets him in the bathroom and he's like, he's involved now. We can't, people can't know about this. And so he basically tells Wes to get in the stall, and he just demolishes Gary.
He pit witches him.
Who did nothing wrong.
No, he was just doing his fucking checklist for the day.
Yeah.
I do enjoy that because it is a little wheel spinny, but it was cool because we got to see. In a movie like this, you kind of want to see at least like a glimpse of the monster or like the monster in abstract.
Right,
so this
and some horror.
Yeah, so this gives them an excuse to do that. And so you get to see kind of a few impressions of what the god, whose name is really difficult to pronounce. And that was actually another really cool sequence when J.K. Simmons is trying to get him to pronounce his name correctly. That was cool. That was well done.
Tells him to hold his tongue.
Tells him to hold his tongue. Yeah, really tight. But he calls him Gat for short, basically. It's this weird sounding Cthulhu type name. So we do get to see a little bit of what Gat actually looks like in this sequence. And it's, a bunch of limbs and goo and stuff. It's very, very Lovecraftian, but it was cool.
Yeah.
So I didn't necessarily mind that Gary shows up.
No, because it was sort of like, well, something has to happen, and if something's going to happen, it should be something horrifying and bloody and grotesque. Mm-hmm. And in order to do that, you kind of need somebody else involved.
Right, because you can't smoke the only other character in the movie.
Yeah, exactly. So it was like, we needed someone to die.
Yeah, pretty much.
So yeah, he's trapped. So he's been told repeatedly not to look at this creature because it will turn him.
It will drive him insane.
It'll drive him insane. Yeah. And so it's constantly like this voice coming from this stall, cloaking their location. It becomes very clear very fast. Like they do the thing where Wes doesn't think it's real at first, and then like at a certain point it's like, okay, it's real. And then we keep getting flashbacks of him with this X.
Yeah.
As like the person he keeps the memory he keeps going into to make him feel better, and like the person ultimately that J.K. Simmons compels him to like cut out his liver for, because he's like the entire universe is going to explode, it's going to be gone, do it for somebody. And so he takes a piece of broken glass. He finally cuts himself open, and then the monster does the rest and sucks out. And this is as Cthulhu is like demolishing the bathroom around him. And this is the stuff that's like, it looked really good. It's a really good looking film.
Yeah, it looks really cool.
Yeah.
The effects are really cool. They do a cool mix of practical and CG. A lot of Gat is practical, which was cool.
Yeah.
And the CG looks like weird and surreal, and that was cool.
It's the short game works.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is like the dialogue, the moment-to-moment dialogue works for the most part. I thought the humor kind of missed for me a few times.
The humor felt, even, this is going to sound weird, even though this is a movie about essentially a haunted glory hole, the humor felt out of tone.
Yes, it did. They do these moments.
This is not a comedy.
No, it's not. And they tried, I think they couldn't quite, it felt like they couldn't quite nail down that tone of like they could have just allowed it to be weird and not had too many jokes. I think him putting his dick in the thing, that's worth it. That was funny.
That's worth it. They should definitely leave that one in. But like, weirdly,
for the most part,
weirdly, even though the premise, like I said, is essentially a haunted glory hole, they handle it in a way. This is another thing about the movie that I thought was really well done. Is, first of all, the basic premise of like, you're sitting in a restroom, rest stop restroom in the middle of nowhere, and somebody in the stall next to you just starts talking to you, and it's, very quickly gets out of control. But there's this really creepy mural painted on the side of the stall around the glory hole. It's like this demonic half lady, half octopus, half like skulls. It's this crazy drawing around this glory hole. And then the entire stall that J.K. Simmons is in is just cloaked in darkness. It's like beneath it is completely pitch black, you can't see, and above it is completely pitch black. So having that sitting there, and that's really all you ever see of him apart from his voice, that's really creepy. And you quickly forget that a glory hole is even on the table. At least I did.
Oh yeah, totally. It's really well executed in that regard.
Yeah.
Which is funny because we're complimenting the shit out of it, but there is a point where we're going to say, well, why is this only okay? But like that the look of the film, the set, the bathroom set was wonderful, and as it fell apart, it was pretty wonderful too.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, I agree. Like they do a couple of gags where like he's pissing while J.K. Simmons is explaining.
That was weird.
Yeah, exactly. It just didn't feel like it was fitting for the movie. It was sort of like you look at Mandy. Mandy is a movie that doesn't like technically have jokes.
No, technically. It does have a cheddar goblin.
Exactly. That is a joke. But it's absurd.
Yeah.
And that, I think this needed a little more of that side of it.
Right.
Like these felt like jokes from like The Office, It was just like,
and like,
it was weird to have them in there.
And like Cheddar Goblin, conversely, is something that is so bizarre and surreal, it's almost upsetting.
Exactly. Cheddar Goblin is not fun to watch.
It feels like insanity.
Yeah.
So it's like it is funny. It is very funny, but it's also like there's this like twinge of like rot to it, or like sickness to it. It's like it feels like you feel uncomfortable watching it. And I think if they were gonna go for jokes, I think maybe that would have kind of been the better tone. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think the jokes were, again, for the most part, 90% of the jokes didn't really work for me.
Get him out of there. The glory hole joke, totally worth it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then we haven't gotten to what the actual twist is, because we talked about the twist.
Yes.
Which is the reveal, which, I saw this coming.
As soon as 10 minutes in, when he gets back into his car and looks over and there's this red lockbox on his seat, you're just like, oh, he's murdered her.
Yeah.
Like he's murdered his girlfriend. It's not a breakup. Yeah. He killed her. And that's 100% what he did. It turns out he's a serial killer. Yeah.
Yeah. And the actor also, to his credit, is, I don't know if he meant to, but I got serial killer vibes from him immediately.
There's something off about him. Yeah.
Yeah. He's playing it real off. And every time they show him like interacting in the memory, it fell off.
Yeah. He feels off. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, the reveal is that he's like he's like sad that he killed her because she thought she was the one, basically, and then she finds his murder box.
Yeah,
dude,
she found his Bluebeard room.
Yeah, don't leave that shit out.
Don't leave it unlocked. Like, don't leave it on the coffee table. What are you doing, man? Like, bury that in the walls or something.
Yeah, that's just bad serial killing.
That is Bush League stuff, sir.
Right. So so the reveal is that this character who you always, I think from the start, you get the vibes where you're like, I'm not sure if I should like this person.
Yeah.
Like, because even if it's a breakup, he's being really weird and like, once it reveals that it's only been like 2 months, their relationship, then you're like, oh, that's a red flag.
It's like, it's like, what is he's driving across country with his car full of stuff, like getting hammered at a rest stop and burning shit like over a 2-month relationship. Right.
And again, this is all on purpose. So it worked out really well because I don't know how much they wanted to hide from us, how, it's that thing where it's like the movie never felt like a puzzle necessarily that we were trying to solve.
No.
It's just he gives off all these red flags. So I think that it's designed so that the audience is a little ahead.
And there's as the movie's progressing and it does this is also, even though like we said the twist is obvious, it does create an interesting kind of reversal of how these movies normally go, where the evil eldritch god is actually the altruistic one, like he genuinely wants to save the earth. And so, like, as their interactions progress and the Gat is making his case for, stopping Cthulhu, whom they never name, but it's pretty obviously him. He's, arguing for why they should stop him and why he's decided he doesn't want to destroy humanity, et cetera, et cetera. And Wes is saying shit like, there's no such thing as altruism. There's no such thing as a good deed. Every good deed is done by somebody for extremely selfish reasons. And he tells a story about him growing up and about how his dad worked, like, I think 2 or 3 jobs just so his mom wouldn't have to work. But he did that in order so that he could have control over them and then use that to essentially abuse her until she commits suicide. So we get like this really sad but also red flag picture of him where it's like, oh, he's got a lot of like bitterness and violence and resentment about him. It's like, this guy is like
and the general idea of this like eldritch god trying to convince a person at rock bottom who feels extremely nihilistic that the world is worth saving is a fun dynamic. And then the reveal that he's a serial killer, it ends with basically the eldritch god like revealing that he was going to screw him over. Like, he does not value this guy is what it feels like. Because at the end he basically says, you don't understand, Wes, we're both monsters.
Yeah.
We don't this world is beautiful. We don't deserve to be here.
Yeah.
And so the reveal is like this idea that like, oh, he kind of tells him like, oh, it'll hurt, you'll be uncomfortable, but you're going to be okay. You can survive without your liver.
You can survive with like 25% of your liver, is what he says.
Yeah, and there's like an implication that Wes is going to make it out of the liver situation. And then afterwards, it's very much like Saw, where it's like, oh, it's a man with his leg cut off. He's not going to last long at all.
You could live through this in a hospital.
Yeah, exactly.
Not at a rest stop in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, and so he basically drags himself out and he's like, I'm a hero. And he's like, no, you're not a hero because heroes get remembered. Yeah. You will not be remembered. So the reveal is like, yeah, Wes, I used you. I used you and you're a piece of crap and you don't deserve this beautiful world, nor do I. And then he dies.
Wes dies.
Wes dies. And the evil is, Cthulhu is stopped. And you don't feel bad. You don't feel bad for him.
No, he sucks. Yeah. He murdered a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Including his girlfriend who just gave him this teddy bear.
Yeah. He did get rest stop drunk. You ever get rest stop drunk?
I have never gotten rest stop drunk, no.
I have gotten rest stop drunk.
Now I'm definitely not going to.
Yeah, that's fair. I got rest stop drunk a few times. Most notably in a rest. It didn't have a structure. It was just a picnic area in the highway median. Like, I'd never seen this before. It was in Ohio. There was a median where, like, instead of going, you know how most exits you go to the right and there's a rest stop and there's one on either side. This one, you went left onto the median, and so I crashed overnight there, and I vomited. I vomited on a highway median in Ohio.
Yeah,
it was one of those.
That all checks out. That's what you do in Ohio.
Yeah. For like, if someone was watching me, they would assume I was at rock bottom, but I was doing great.
I was having a great night.
I was having a great night. Yeah, exactly. I was driving cross country. I was having a fun time. I didn't drive drunk, for the record. I stopped, got shit-faced at the median because I was like, when in Rome, drink bourbon on the side of the highway in Ohio.
And sleep there.
And sleep there in the back of your car.
Oof.
And vomit next to your car.
Oof.
Yeah, it was fun.
It doesn't sound fun, Dave. It does not sound fun at all.
It was fun.
It only sounds slightly better than the time this guy had.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I didn't mean Eldritch God. So why does this movie not quite work?
Because it takes, in between all the highlights that we've mentioned, is a lot of wheel spinning. And it's a lot of just not cutting to the chase for no other reason than to fill time. So there's like he keeps trying to peek at Gat like 3 or 4 times. Something happens where like Gat has to stun him into like some flashback that then becomes weird for 5 minutes and bring him back. And then each time he's like, I warned you. It's like, well, how many times are you going to keep warning him? Like it's so we keep circling the same idea to pad the length, which is a problem.
Right, because again, it's 80 minutes. It's 80 minutes.
It's barely feature length. Like it barely gets there. So and really there's only like 45 minutes of actual like movie. Like the rest of it is just kind of like stuff that doesn't really need to be there, and it's like kind of beating the same drum for a lot of it. So I think which is the issue is like when I saw the length, that kind of length is always it's not always a red flag, but like it's that thing where it's like there's some stories that simply take 90 minutes. Yeah. Where like I think of a movie like Green Room, where it's like, yeah, this is exactly the length it needed to be. It never felt like they stretched it, No. But it also didn't overstay its welcome. This feels like it really was supposed to be a 45-minute short. Like it maybe even a half hour. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so like they had to just make the finish line. And to me it's like, oh, I get it. Because like you want J.K. Simmons, you're going to pay all this money to do this.
Yeah.
You want it to be feature length.
Yeah.
The problem is they didn't. I don't know if this is budget or what, because here's the thing: is I can think of ways to make this longer. I can think of ways to do that, and it comes from variety of what's going on. Yeah. Like if you told like a really surreal, weird story where he goes on a little adventure, or like there's ways to stretch this out. I just think what they had to work with was this rest stop.
Yeah.
Set.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much it.
And that's all they could really do. Yeah.
Right. And like, so like there's like really surreal ways to stretch this out, but it would have required more money.
Yeah.
And I think they spent all their money on J.K. Simmons.
And their effects. The effects look good.
Oh yeah, they look good.
Like this movie looks good. We've said that already, but yeah, it's a good looking movie. It's well directed. There's not enough meat on these bones, unfortunately.
Yeah,
so
and I think
the premise is spread too thin, essentially.
Right, and it's sort of devoted to what feels like almost like non sequiturs or like conversations that don't need to happen. Like the woman at the beginning who puts down the pieces and helps them with the candy machine. Like she didn't matter.
Yeah, I think that was just sort of setting up that something creepy was. Strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
Yeah, but they never really explain what that means. Like, was she J.K. Simmons? I
don't know. Maybe she's just somebody who is aware of him. Maybe she was one of the brothers and sisters that Gat mentioned. It's not clear. Maybe. But like the little ectoplasm,
she could have been Cthulhu.
I think if she was Cthulhu, she would have just busted in there and got him. The little goopy goop, little ectoplasm on the plant is the same stuff that's like dripping out of Gat's stall. So I think
the implication is he came there. They do these 2 zooms to space in the movie, which I actually could have done without, but I understand their purpose, right? Is they're representing when Gat here, like he screams in his car and it zooms out to space. And to me that represented when Gat, like he got his attention essentially. And then the last one felt like when Gat is leaving. That's how I interpreted it.
Here's my interpretation, because they bookend the movie essentially.
Yeah.
So the first scream is when it's like after he's gotten out of his car, he sort of fucks up the vending machine. He can't get his candy, and then somebody else comes and helps him get it. The strange lady. And then he gets into his car and is looking at his picture, and then he screams like, "Why?" And it zooms out like all the way out into space. I took that, especially after like at the end of the movie when he's dying, it zooms all the way back out. And as at that point, we have a very different context for it because we know this is about like great old ones and celestial beings and shit. So like I took it as that first. It's the first scream is like how insignificant he and his problems are.
Right, that makes sense.
But then when it happens again, and we have this greater context of like the size and scope of the universe and all these things that we don't know about it, and how vast and like incredible it is, and like the whole journey of the movie we've just seen was about saving the universe and all this great expanse and all the life contained therein. Sort of was doing the same thing, like showing how insignificant he is, because like Gat just said you'll be forgotten because that's what you deserve,
right? But it is also showing this is everything he just saved.
Yes,
too.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's how I took it.
That makes sense. I don't know why. Those 2 shots took me out of the movie in this weird way. Like it felt like a shot from Men in Black, where it was like it's almost literally a shot from Men in Black.
Yeah, very
and
close,
so there was something about it that it's weird because I can't quite put my finger on why those shots took me out of the film, and I think it's because they were too big. Because this movie, I like the smallness of it, and I like the implied bigness. As opposed to, we're going to zoom out into space. I was like, oh, no, don't do that. Don't zoom out into space. Just keep it right there. Keep it at that rest stop. And you're right, is that is the meaning, I think, behind those shots. And that's not a bad meaning at all. But it felt a little tonally like, again, I think it should have been more claustrophobic, like stayed darker and gotten weirder, even weirder than it is now. And it's already pretty weird. Yeah,
I think that's probably my main issue, I suppose. My main critique is that this movie should have been weirder, and I felt like that because I feel like that, as you were saying, even though I agree with you that it probably was a budgetary limits, but if it had been weirder than it is, it would have solved the problem of the premise being spread too thin.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm spoiled from Everything Everywhere All at Once, but I think of that movie as a movie that's like they took the premise and they used every part of it, where they're like hot dog fingers world, it doesn't matter if it doesn't make any fucking sense. Like there needed to be that level of like, I don't know, like him having to like be chased through his memories and his memories get really weird, or like him having like his perception of the bathroom changing something. I don't know. I'm not even sure exactly what I'm looking for here, but it all comes down to that it didn't feel like they had the ability to make it as weird as it should have been. And there felt like stuff like, again, that lady was like, oh, that's a neat little detail, but it felt like they were just killing time more than they were setting something up there.
Yeah, like that interaction could have been stranger. Like it could have been a little creepier.
Yeah, or it could have mattered more.
It doesn't seem to, it might connect thematically, and I'm just too dense to figure it out at the moment. But
yeah, I mean, we're smart enough.
Maybe.
We're not the smartest people, but like,
no, that's true.
If the woman keeps ripping up these pieces of paper and making these little spheres,
balls, yeah.
Yeah. And so that must represent something, right? I don't know if that represents the planets or the gods, the children of the gods. Like you said, it feels most likely that she represented like some other eldritch god.
Mm-hmm.
What does she say to him about the vending machine? It's like sometimes things are broken, but you just have to try again.
Sometimes you think things are broken, it just means you've stopped trying or something.
Right, which again feels like it should mean something in terms of the plot. Mm-hmm. Like I kept that in my head and I was like, oh, that's going to come into play. Or this lady is going to come into play in some way. And then none of that. So I think that's part of it is ultimately the story is pretty simple. Mm-hmm. Too, which is that it never spirals out of control in a way that you'd expect. It's like this eldritch god is like, I want a piece of your liver, and then he gets a piece of the liver, and then narratively we're told it's okay, this guy was bad anyway, and then the movie ends. And so like, while I like what they're doing, that idea that we're both terrible monsters, it doesn't create any, like, at no point do you care about this guy.
No. Not really.
He immediately gives off red flags. Mm-hmm. He's immediately at this weird rock bottom. He's bitter. You get the feeling that like, okay, like it's the way the movie, you know, if you've seen enough movies, you know, like, oh, okay, he did something because he's like obsessively calling this woman and you're just hearing his side of it, and his side of it is so simplistic. And then the 2 months thing. And so like at no point did I feel bad for this guy.
No.
And so in the end, him cutting out his liver was just like, yeah, do it. Do it.
Yeah.
You know, like I want to see it happen. Yeah. So there was no like
it out.
Like, what's his name? Gary was the only guy that I felt sympathetic towards.
Right, he's trying to do his job.
Need him. Yeah, exactly.
Listen to an art history audiobook, I think.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, they really painted a picture of Gary before killing him off, which I like. But yeah, I think there's a lack of like, it's not emotionally complex to watch because it's pretty straightforward. Ultimately, it doesn't really throw any twists that you wouldn't see coming. Mm-hmm. Like I said, like I don't think the serial killer twist they were trying to hide necessarily.
I don't think so. It doesn't seem like it. It seems like they kind of want you to know that he is not what he may seem from the beginning.
Right. And so this goes back to the fact that the broad strokes of this movie are a little weak, whereas the actual the dialogue sequences and the visuals and the way it's presented is quite good.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I just don't think they had, either for budget reasons or for whatever reason, I don't think they fully had a film here.
Yeah.
They had a really solid short film.
Yeah. Yeah, this would have been a pretty sweet, like, 35, 40-minute movie.
Yeah. I am wicked curious to see what she does next.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I don't know, did she write it? Let me look it up. I'm not going to look it up.
Okay, yeah,
I don't want to look things up. Should I look it up?
What
if I looked it up? Tom, what if I looked it up?
What if you did that? What if we lived in that multiverse? Where you looked it up.
Where I looked it up.
And we had hot dog fingers.
Yeah, it was written by 3 people.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a lot of people. You think they could have had more things happen?
Yeah.
Rebecca McKendry, she didn't write it, but she's the director of it. And like she's now kind of like after this is sort of on my radar because I thought this was very well made.
This is a Canadian film, isn't it? Isn't it Canadian?
Ew, really?
I think so. Like the guy had a bit of an accent, and it looked like when it zoomed out both times that it was
a little bit of Canada. I thought it was Canada or Maine, and I was either way, it's not great.
Either way, I'm suspect.
Yeah, too north for me. You know, what are they doing up there? The fuck do they think they're doing? Yeah. Let's see here. I'm trying to find out if it's Canadian. I can't figure that out. I'm sorry. Everyone.
This is the kind of gripping radio that y'all came here for.
Do you think they
what?
How late in the game do you think they got J.K. Simmons? Because it feels it definitely like the J.K. Simmons thing is they I don't know. I'm just curious.
I would bet probably way after they shot it. Probably close to.
You think so?
Probably deep in post-production, I think.
Maybe, yeah. Because it's a hell of a get, and it's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And I just can't... I know they definitely dumped all their money on J.K. Simmons, which was a good idea.
Yes.
Very good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, he's great. It's a great performance.
Yeah. Again, a lot of great shit in this. It just would have made a really good short. But I get it. You just can't justify getting J.K. Simmons for like a short.
Yeah.
What do you even do with a short? What do you put it in festivals, you know? Like, no, you got to make it feature length so it can go on Shudder and people can talk about it and you know, your career can flourish. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
So yeah, this is I would say that this is probably worth watching.
Oh yeah. I think if people like this sort of shit, you know, if you're like really picky about your horror, then you might not have time for it.
That's fair.
But if you're a horror junkie, I wouldn't say this was scary.
Oh,
it was horror.
It's creepy.
It's creepy. Yeah, it has horrifying ideas in it. But also, like if you liked Mandy, you know, if you liked, I don't know, even like Prisoners of Ghostland, if you liked weird, far out, like you know, in unconventional films, you'll probably like this, but you probably won't like it as much as you think.
Yeah,
because it's ultimately not that unconventional.
It's not that weird. Yeah.
No.
It really
could have been weirder.
Yeah, it could have been a lot weirder. But I do like the creepiness that is there.
Yeah, you know what it is? It's like that Wally's Wonderland. Is that what it's called with Nicolas Cage?
Willy's, I think. But yeah.
Yeah, where that is like it has a lot of potential, but it's playing off of a horror trope we already had, right? Which is the Chuck E. Cheese animatronics come to life. What's it called? That game?
Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah. The same way this is like Eldritch Gods are in right now. You know, we've already sort of been doing it. So it's playing off of a horror idea that's already sort of been around.
Yeah.
And then ultimately it isn't as weird as it should have been, but the execution is great.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what it was to me, which is like, none of this is new stuff.
Isn't it?
Like this.
Go finish that thought.
Oh, just like when I first heard about Glorious, obviously I was like, oh, that's delightful. But like, it wasn't like so out there.
Yeah.
With today's climate, with indie horror.
Right. What I was to say is, you know, you mentioned Eldritch Gods are in right now. Isn't it funny that we keep doing so many like Lovecraft adaptations and things that are inspired by Lovecraft and all this like Eldritch God and Elder One stuff, but like nobody will just sit down and make a Cthulhu movie?
Right. It's so weird.
Why are we doing that?
Is everybody trying to make one just mysteriously dying or something? What's going on there?
Let's try to make one and see what happens to us.
All right. Yeah, we'll make a documentary, like a found footage about trying to make a Cthulhu. Yeah, it's really weird that no one is just doing Cthulhu.
Just make Cthulhu, man.
Yeah. For the love of God.
Put him out there. Yeah, look at him. He's fucked up. Look at that thing.
Yeah,
I want to see that in a movie.
To the point that this movie didn't name drop him.
No, and the glimpse we do see of him is you can't even really. It's just you can't tell what it is.
He looks like the Stranger Things monster more.
Mm-hmm.
The season 2 monster, the smoke thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not even Cthulhu-y.
It looks like a mind flayer. That's what they called it. And
right.
But not the mind flayer in the game, which does look like Cthulhu.
Right. Yeah, no one wants to fucking
Nobody wants to touch that shit, yeah.
I don't get it. Are we done?
I think we're done.
Yeah. Check it out. It's on Shudder. If you have Shudder, no reason not to watch it. It's fun. It is fun. Mm-hmm. It's just like at 79 minutes, it still feels a little too long for its premise.
I shouldn't have been looking at my phone as often as I was for a 79-minute movie.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for listening, folks. Yeah. If you'd like to, you can check out our Patreon, patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. For $5 a month, you get access to a bunch of exclusive podcasts like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and Spiel Boys. For $10, we watch movies with our patrons every Friday night.
Boy, do we.
Yeah. And I don't know. This is one I would I guess, watch one of those nights.
Yeah, probably. I could see us watching this movie.
You know, here's the thing, though, is that the dialogue is really fun, so it'd be
it's not
weird
really a movie you can
over.
talk over. Yeah, this is a hard one to talk over. So much of it is in the dialogue. We also have a store. Head over to GamefullyUnemployed.com where you can find a link to our Teespring store. We have all kinds of cool artwork, original artwork and designs. You can get on t-shirts, mugs, stickers, posters, all sorts of things. So slap your little tentacle face on there.
Yeah.
Wrap your little mouth tentacles around there. Yeah, what's that?
Eldritch God. What if it was the reveal was that it was Jesus in the stall? Like Jesus is an Eldritch God?
He could
and
be.
It's just like, it's like Cthulhu and all these wormy things, and then
Jesus.
Big Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be.
That's what I want. Yeah, why not?
He could have a bunch of tentacles under that beard. We don't know.
Right. That's why
it's got the beard. Yeah. That's why it's there.
Yeah.